Hey everybody, it's Rebecca Branstetter, author of the School Psychologist Survival Guide and founder of the Thriving School Psychologist Collective. And I am very excited to be on this coffee chat. Part of the things we do in the Thriving School Psych Collective is we ask school psychologists who are in the program, what do you guys want to learn about? What is like the burning topic of school psychology? And over, folks have told me they're really interested in beefing up their social emotional learning curriculum in the prevention and intervention. So I have with us a fantastic expert in that. This is Dr. Byron McClure. He is with the DC Public Schools, and he has a number of initiatives on how to support SEL in the schools. So I want to kick it to Byron. Do you have your coffee for our chat?
I drank it already, so I couldn't wait.
I did too. I'm on like 3. All right.
I had to drink it already.
All right, we'll get a refill later. So tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got to be interested in SEL curriculum. Go ahead.
All right. Well, first I want to thank you for taking time to have me on your show and just to talk to you and over the coffee, the imaginary coffee that we really don't have. Most of my coffee. No, this is excellent, and I'm grateful that school psychologists have a platform such as these where they can come and learn and talk and see what's going on in the field. So a little bit about me. Where to start? It's hard to believe, like, whenever I'm asked this question, and I say I've been a school psychologist for the past 8 years. In my mind, I'm still brand new, like fresh off my internship, but I have been in the field for 8 years, which is so hard to believe now. I did my graduate work for someone at Hampton University, which is a historically Black college and university.
You're blowing up. You're so popular. The life of a school psychologist. All the stuff.
So I added this like on my
different things coming in.
Right. And so I want to like turn the volume off on the computer messages.
Well, he's turning off the messages. I will tell you that I feel like every year as a school psychologist of experience is actually a dog year of learning. Like the first year you learn like 7 years of stuff. And so whatever, 8 times 7, right? How many years have you been a school psychologist? I feel like every year is like an exponential growth in what it takes to be in this field, right? So 8 years is like a seasoned pro in my mind.
A seasoned pro. And I was saying, so I went to Hampton University, the real HU for those who were wondering. So we have this competition between Howard University, who's the real HU. There's no question, Hampton is the real HU. So I got my undergrad degree from Hampton back in 2008. After that, I went to Abilene Christian University. And true story, I actually started out as a clinical psychologist. And I wanted to work with minorities from underprivileged areas, and we had to do this project. And during the project, we had to look at like demographics, the likelihood that our demographics would seek out therapy or counseling, and then pay. And going through like the demographics, I was like, oh no, the demographic I want to work with rarely seek out counseling and therapy. They're one of the least likely groups that actively seek out. I found out through my research they're more likely to be medically sent, to be referred or involuntarily committed, but they're not likely to go actively seek out support on their own. So I literally walked out of that class like, oh no, what am I gonna do? And I'm like distressed, like what's gonna happen? And then this lady comes and she's like, excuse me, sir, are you okay? I'm like, no. I want to work with this group. I don't know what I'm going to do. I told her my problem. She was like, well, there's this thing called school psychology. And I was like, what? I don't want to be a school counselor. She was like, no, that happens a lot. She's like, it's school psychology. It's being a psychologist, but you're inside of a school. It's like, tell me more about that. Mm-hmm. And so we started talking. And then she said, for what you want to do, I recommend that you get in early so that you prevent these behaviors before they occur. And she started talking about special education, had no idea what she was talking about. But come to find out, those students if it's on their IP, they have to receive those supports and services. And so she's talking prevention. She's talking about your demographic has to receive those services. And really long story short, I ended up making that switch right there that day from clinical psychology to school psychology. And then I ended up getting my specialist degree from Abilene Christian. And that lady was Dr. Jennifer Shoemaker. So whenever I speak or do anything, I always have to shout her out because she's the reason why I'm a school psychologist.
And she's spot on because the school psychologists are on that front line of, support for social emotional challenges. And I recently read a statistic that, 1 in 5 students has a mental health challenge that prevents them from learning, and 80% don't get services. And school psychologists are really well posed to be that frontline advocacy work, getting students before, as I call, before stage 4 mental health crisis, right? Like no one in the medical profession would ever be like, oh, there's some inklings of cancer, so let's wait till stage 4 until it's really bad and you need, specialized treatment. And school psychologists, I think, really understand the importance of that early intervention, which is a lovely segue into probably why you're here on this coffee chat, which is to talk about 3 things that school psychologists can do. And we're here about some sort of actionable items that we can take away from this. And then we're going to dive deeper into other topics, and we can, look at some of the materials that you've created. But we're going to I'm going to frame up for you guys. We're going to talk about 3 things, and I'm going to kick off each one separately. But first, we're going to talk about how do school psychologists create a plan for building out SEL in their schools. And we're going to talk about ways to identify social emotional learning that's culturally relevant. And then lastly, we're going to think about sort of creative ways to infuse SEL into the day. So I would love for you to kick us off with that first point around creating a plan. So I know, a lot of school psychologists have these dreams of like, how am I going to build out my SEL? They have all the ideas. There's no shortage of ideas. So how do they build out, create a plan for SEL? What would you say are first steps?
I think the first step, and I'm all about actionable strategies, and the actual strategy that I personally use is from Castle. And it's the Castle rubric. And it's a simple Google search. First, Castle, they're the collaborative for academic, social, and emotional learning. They are the gold standard. And I thought I'm trying to turn this off. I hope this isn't like
I'm going to do a little pitch for Castle while you work that out. And this is actually a great demo of school psychologists' lifestyle, right? We have to, things are coming in and we need to problem solve on the spot. So I'm going to let you problem solve the binging and all. You're so popular, I swear. I'll talk about Castle for a second. So Castle is an organization, and if you don't know it, it's casel.org. I'll post the link below. And they do have this blueprint that you can follow about no matter what stage your school is in and for building out SEL. And they have a variety of resources and trainings and things like that. And they also have a really great clearinghouse of what works, what's research informed, what's research based. So instead of just what's available, we can see what moves the needle for kids in building some of those SEL skills. So can you talk a bit more about how you use Castle to create a plan for your school?
Yeah, so Castle, they have this really awesome resource. And if you just go to their website, or it's schoolguide.castle.org, and it gives you a SEL plan right there. Boom, strategy number 1. Drop the mic. This is a pen. Drop the pen right there. Super, super easy. I started using this at my school because, look, it's hard. School psychologists, we're asked to wear so many different hats. We have so many responsibilities and things that we have to do. This is a tool that makes it easy. It makes it simple. You can integrate it easily with your PBIS teams. If you have SEL teams, hey guys, here's the rubric. And the great thing, it takes like 2 seconds to create an account. It saves all of your progress, and it takes you through several different focus areas. I believe like the first one is like creating a team. Right. Okay. What do we need to do to create a team? Then it takes you to the next step. The next step is okay, what's the plan? Here's the actual plan. Boom, 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 step A, B, C, and D. And then it takes you to the next one. Like, do you have administrative buy-in? All those different things. And it's a really super easy plan to where you have no excuses of why you're not implementing SEL. So I highly recommend that. Take a look, check it out. Like I said, it saves your progress. If you're traditional or you like writing things out, you can download it and print it. It's free. Best of all, you can print that out, share it with your school teams, and follow that school plan to mapping out SEL at your school. It's good for those schools who are in the implementation phase and looking at getting it off the ground. It really helps you to start thinking and understanding what you need from A to Z. So I highly recommend that. Go check it out. That's something that you can start doing today.
That's fantastic. So whatever stage you are in the process, that's I will post the link below so that you can look at where you are. And as a school psychologist, we're sometimes seen as experts in things, but I think this tool sounds like a really great collaborative tool to use as a consultation tool for like, okay, who's our A team? Who are we pulling together? I have this blueprint. Who's with me to follow this? And I think that's a really great practical suggestion. Let's move on to point number 2, which is talking about SEL that is culturally relevant. Can you speak to that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's what my entire dissertation was really on. It was an investigation of Castle Select programs with minority students from high poverty communities. And I wanted to see which SEL curriculums will work with my target demographic, minority students, that I'm saying youth of color from high poverty communities, and which curriculums are culturally sensitive to their needs. Which ones are that I can take to my school in Southeast DC and start using with my students today. And there aren't that many that's out there. And so what I found in my dissertation is that there are some SEL programs that have been used with high poverty students or students that come from high poverty backgrounds. There are some SEL curriculums that have been used with students of different ethnicities and different racial backgrounds as well. What makes a SEL program culturally competent or culturally aware? What are some of those characteristics? It's things such as the language. Does it use language that's sensitive to various cultures? I think that's something that's important. Do these programs promote a positive school culture? Like, do they teach skills that are important to that particular demographic and background? And what I mean by that, there may be SEL skills that are more important to one ethnicity compared to others. I know I talk a lot about like trauma responsive and what that looks like. This is a nice way to just kind of plug it in. But there are certain protective skills that students need to where this is a survival skill that I have. But if we're teaching certain skills inside of the school, that may be incongruent to some of those protective skills. And by teaching those incongruent skills can end up doing more harm than good. So ensuring that we are teaching skills that are culturally sensitive to the demographic. And then also, these programs should be cost effective too. So if you're at a high need school and you're strapped for money, you're not going to want to have to go out and spend thousands upon thousands of dollars on an SEL curriculum that doesn't even fit with your target demographic. And then something else I looked at in my dissertation is what population has these SEL curriculums been tested with? Like, have they been researched with a majority, let's say you're dealing with Island Pacific students. Has that curriculum been tested with those students? So you're going to use a curriculum that doesn't even align with your students. My focus, just because I'm biased, is with Black boys. Like, that's why I got into the game, why I switched from clinical psych to school psych. And why would I pick a curriculum that hasn't been found to be evidence-based with Black boys? Like, it just doesn't fit. So what I'm really talking about is the fit and finding a curriculum that fits for your student body.
Yeah, I think that those are the things that you pointed out are great questions that school psychologists who are working with a demographic and they're not sure if this SEL curriculum is appropriate is to kind of think about the language that is being used. Think if the skills being taught are compatible with the skills that they need to be safe and protected in the community. And then also, the cost effectiveness piece. Just because I think, it's always a revolving door of like, here's the newest SEL thing, right? But those are great guiding questions to ask, at least if there isn't any research behind it. Were there any programs that stood out as particularly relevant or in your dissertation that you thought were a good fit for students of color?
Right. So y'all should go check out my dissertation, read all 150 pages of it.
Get your coffee first.
Get the coffee first.
You want to shout out any one particular program, or are we going to?
I'll shout one out.
Okay.
There were 7 SEL, and these are all CASEL select programs. So CASEL, they're already the gold standard of SEL curriculum. So out of those CASEL curriculums, I identified 7, and I did a meta-analysis, and my criteria was really rigorous, and it had to meet certain standards to even be included. And out of that rigorous criteria that I set, 7 actually fit. One that I'm not recommending it, but that I found to meet all of the criteria was an SEL curriculum called Student Success Skills. And you can go to the CASEL website, you can check it out, but they have a really strong program. It's culturally sensitive. They target like specific skills that will help students to be successful. It's in the name. And it's been used with high poverty students, minority students, and it's evidence behind it. So I'm a huge proponent of student success skills. Another one that I'll recommend is by Matheny out in Austin, Texas. It's called School Connect. And he's just a super, super dope guy, by the way. He actually came to my school and did a presentation, but he was highly engaging, and he's doing the work, right? Like he's in Austin, like he's in the classroom, he's doing the work, and it's called School Connect. I like School Connect because it's sequence, but it can be used at the secondary level, at the high school level as well. Similar for demographics, that one worked as well. So I'll give y'all those 2. So School Connect and Student Success Skills. I'll give y'all another one. Too Good for Violence was another one that was good too. I'll give y'all 3 just because.
Okay, 3. The magic number is 3. Things come in 3s, right? Yeah, I'll post those in the links below so that you can, and I might just direct everyone to CASEL because they have really great stuff, but I can definitely highlight those ones that you can check out for yourselves. Let's think about, okay, so I often say that, in schools, in the world of school psychology, we have ideas and research that is bigger than our budgets. And sometimes we have to get really creative. Either on the budgetary side or getting creative, or how we're going to make something that's off the shelf curriculum work for our kids in our schedule and our specific needs. So can you talk to me a little bit about what it means to be creative about SEL? I'm intrigued. What we're getting creative about?
Yes, so we have to think creatively about integrating social emotional learning inside of schools. I talked a lot about the fit. I talked a lot about what works best for you. And sometimes these super expensive, SEL curriculums that are evidence-based just may not be a good fit for your students. So you have to think outside of the box and think creatively about how you can incorporate that inside of the school. And I've actually been in positions where I've been able to do that, to where I've been thrown in the fire and had to figure it out. And by doing that, it actually led me to create some of my own programs. One of the programs that I ran while I was at a middle school, it was a high needs middle school in Southern Maryland. And I created what's called the Students with the Goal program. And at first we started using SEL curriculum. It was the Strong Kids curriculum by Dr. Kenneth Merrill out of the University of Oregon. And it was great. It was going well. But then there was something missing, and it was that cultural competent piece. And so I was like, all right, this is great. Love the work out of University of Oregon, but let's throw this to the side. What do y'all care about? What's important to you? And so we would have these round table conversations about things that were important to them. And then one day just pulled up a YouTube video and was watching ESPN 30 for 30. I think it was on like Bo Jackson or something like that. And there was like, yeah, like I can relate to that. I can connect with that. And so then we just started taking like all these traits and characteristics from these YouTube videos and people's real lives and connected it to their lives. And then we created our own like expectations for our group. It was like, oh, this is our group. Oh, these are our expectations. Let's come up with a cool name. And we said, well, what about that name? What about that name? We're like, who do y'all care about? It was like, man, it has to have swag. And we came up with swag. But we came up with students with the goal. So it meant something. But the students bought into it. And then that program, it evolved into like an even bigger program to where it started out with like about 5-6 kids. It ended up being like a whole school program. So the entire school was running swag period on Thursdays at the end of the day, which is just phenomenal.
Yeah, that's so great because it started with student-led discussion, right? Yep. And I'm a big proponent. I think that perfectionism can be the enemy of the good when it comes to starting something. Oh, we need the perfect program. We're going to get started. And it's going to be all rolled out perfectly, right? But I'm a big fan of make it good, then make it better. And you were making it good with a good curriculum, and then the students engaged to make it better. Right. It's something they could sink their teeth into, and something that felt theirs. And that's going to be way more powerful than, you know, Dr. McClure from on high saying you need the social skill, and I'm going to teach it to you. Now you execute it, and I'll give you a positive behavior ticket if you did it, right? That, you know, can work in some circumstances, but what a great story about how you took something good and the students, and you facilitated the students to make it even better. So that's what you mean by getting creative, right?
Absolutely. And it was student-centered. And I said it was creative because we literally created it together, like, and it met their needs as well. Also, I say creative because we were strapped for money. I mean, Strong Kids, it's an affordable curriculum, one of the more affordable curriculums, but we didn't have a ton of money to just go out and buy a curriculum for the entire school. So we created something that ultimately ended up being free, but was culturally relevant to our kids. And so you don't have to spend thousands of dollars. Like, you just have to think, get your students involved, and find something that your students can buy into, and go from there.
And it kind of like full circle as we're wrapping up. It kind of goes back to what is the role of a school psychologist, and how can we infuse ourselves into these, you know, grassroots tier 1 school-wide interventions. Often we get called in when they are at that higher level of care, and that's an appropriate thing for us to do as well. But I think it's so critical that we identify those SEL needs at our schools and fold ourselves into that process. Is there any, oh, someone's at the door. It's Life of a School Psychologist. I'm gonna go ahead and ignore that for a moment since we're wrapping up. But again, I want to, you know, let people know about places they can go to kind of get more information. And it sounds like you're like a wealth of resources and at least a great thought partner on how you can get creative at your school. So can you talk to me a little bit about where folks can find you? And hold on, I'm about to be that BBC guy, where a child runs in the background as I'm recording something. So again, we are flexible and rolling with it because we're school psychologists. So that was my little one. But I wanted to ask you, where can folks find more information from you? And then also tell us a little bit about this SEL curriculum that you mentioned, and we'll post links below. But can you just shout out where people can find you?
Absolutely. So you can find me on Twitter at School Psych Life, School Psych Life, LIFE. I post all things SEL, updates with, you know, my school, what's going on. I share a lot of different resources, things in education in general. So you can find me at School Psych Life, then across all platforms at Lessons for SEL, LESSONSFORSEL. And that's also the website, lessonsforsel.com. And what Lessons for SEL, I wanted to create a resource from my dissertation for educators, psychologists, clinicians, whoever, to actually implement SEL inside of the classroom. I found that as a struggle, actually implementing SEL inside of the classroom. So thinking creatively, I came up with what's called 6-minute solutions, which is under the lessons for SEL. It's an actual lesson that teachers, clinicians can start implementing SEL. It's 150 ready-made lessons, so you don't have to prepare anything. All the lessons are there, and they're broken up by 5 different units, and it's 30 lessons per unit for a total of 150. And each unit ties to one of the core competencies, one of the core SEL competencies, and it's 5. We all know the circle, those core SEL skills. And so you go through 150 lessons, and it's explicitly teaching those SEL skills. And we have digital copies available, hard copies available, and you can find it at lessonsforsel.com.
What a great resource. We'll go check it out. Thank you for sharing your time and expertise. And we moved through all kinds of tech difficulties and interruptions, and we still did it. We nailed it. So I'm going to go get a celebratory cup of coffee. You do the same. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate your time.
Of course. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, and have a good one.
All right. Take care.
Bye.